Alright everyone, welcome back to more Witch on the Holy Night. We're about to reach the final chapter of this game, which would be, I believe, 13. And I gotta say, I'm a little sad about that because, as you all know, I've been enjoying this game immensely. So, like, playing through the story and the cast of characters, I'm gonna miss them a lot. But yeah, guys, it's not truly over yet because we still got the bonus chapters to deal with. So, once I'm done with the main story, we'll still have that to hold us until, that's done too. But if anything, hope you all continue to enjoy. Thank you again for the love and support. Let's keep this going. Alright guys, welcome back. The sound of her slapping his face echoed through the hall, along with his staggering steps.
Aozoki.
Tears of anger welling in her eyes, Aoko turned her back to Sojiro, sulking as though she would kill him as soon as she looked at him again.
他人の記憶を取り込んだ代償か。引きずられたな、青子。
そうよ。自分の意志を人に曲げられるのがこんなに悔しいなんて知らなかった。
That was about all Aoko could mutter in response. The corners of Toko's lips curled into a grin.
何がおかしいのよ、あなた。
いや、お前にも人並みの情けがあるとは思っていなくてね。バカ呼ばわりは訂正しておくよ。他人の理想を背負うのに怯えるなんて、10年経っても可愛いじゃないか。
あんたね。
そう睨むな。今のは心からの賛辞だ。で、私をどうする？彼に殺させるか、それとも見逃すか？
仕方ないでしょ。あなたの言う通り、これが何よりの代償だったんだから。
Aoko said begrudgingly, shooting Sojiro a sideways glance. He seemed to have recovered from the slap, and his usual absent-minded look had returned. He may have had no memories of his past, but his morals and values were too deep to be erased. Sojiro was trying to violate those. It would eat away at him forever. And he would be doing it not for himself, but for Aoko. Aoko understood this all too well. The moment he said he would do it was the moment he lost. Not stopping would be no different than watching him die. And she would lose something important inside her. Aoko did not want that to happen.
青崎。やっぱり自分の受けた傷は自分で返さないと気が済まない性格か？
Aoko ignored Sojiro, who seemed to have gotten the wrong idea. Instead, she directed her scowl at Toko, who still lay collapsed in front of her.
わかったわよ。トウコ、今回は見逃してあげる。けど、ただで帰れるとは思ってないわよね。
Toko scowled at her little sister, standing smugly over her.
祖父のところに突き出すのなら、ここで引導を渡してくれ。
まさか、私もあの人には会いたくないもの。あなたにはこのまま出て行ってもらうわ。邪魔もしないし、教会に届けも出さない。律子は私が言い含めておくから、今回の件は私たちだけの秘密よ。
Toko's brow creased further. There had to be a catch.
青子、何を企んでいる？
別に。その代わりに呪いをプレゼントしようと思って。今まで散々ガンド食らってきたし、おあいこでしょ？まあ、私のはちょっと強力だけど。今後この土地に入ろうものなら、マダガスカルガエルになってもらうわ。
Smiling as if they had just arranged to eat Chinese food tomorrow night, Aoko walked toward Toko.
はて、なんでそういうものだけ習得してるんだ、お前は。
そりゃ師匠がアリスだもの。偏るのは当然でしょ。
The other Awazaki sister's brow knitted so hard it could have produced a sweater. Perhaps this is why her sister would stay a novice forever.
宗十郎、席外して。覗き見が趣味なら別に見ていってもいいけど。
As she spoke, she began removing her sister's overcoat. The uncomfortable look in Toko's eyes compared to the strangely cheerful one in Aoko's caused Sojiro to hesitate. Was it really okay to leave the two of them alone? Eventually, he nodded. This was just a weird game between sisters.
覗き見は確かにいい趣味じゃないな。
Muttering more to himself than anything, he ducked into an empty classroom.
なんだそのブサイクで悪趣味な術式は。センスがないにも程がある。お前本当に私の妹か？
この通り、芸術的才能は全部姉貴に持っていかれた哀れな妹でして。嘆くなら自分の天才性を嘆きなさい。どうか？
Down the cold, dilapidated hallway, cries of sadness, joy, and anguish rang out. Outside, the fully bloomed white flower petals floated one by one into the night. Standing among the ballet of petals, Alice gazed up at the sky. The blossoms gathered into a cloud, then slowly vanished, as though falling asleep. Soon, not a single flower would remain, and the clearing would return to a snowy tundra. The magic had ended. In a matter of minutes, the past would return to its rightful place. Along with it, the time shared between the boy and the girl. The old school building was still. Alice embraced the silence and patiently waited. After a while, Sojiro emerged from the building, and Alice released a puff of white breath. A small sigh of relief it was over. Sojiro approached carrying Aoko, cradling her in his arms. Was she asleep? Her eyes were closed and she seemed peaceful. Her hair and limp body dangled like a silk drape. She looked just like Sleeping Beauty.
待っていてくれたんだ、アリス。
He said, holding Aoko with little effort. Alice nodded.
瞳子さんはどうなったの？
いや、よくわからないけど、瞳子さんは帰ったよ。青崎が言うには、そう簡単に解除できない呪いをかけたから、向こう10年は三崎市には入ってこれないって。その後、瞳子さんが尻尾を巻くのを仁王立ちで見届けて、見えなくなったらそのまま倒れたんだ。
Alice's response was brief, as if she was wondering if things were really so simple. She seemed more concerned about Toko than Aoko, which made Sojiro concerned about Alice and Aoko's relationship more than anything.
それはともかくとして、青子はどうなっているんだろ
う。He asked nonchalantly as he looked at Aoko breathing deeply in her sleep.
矛盾と清純を合わせているのね。彼女の時間は今の時間とは異なってしまったから。歯車を合わせるまで目は覚めないわ。
Sojiro nodded in understanding, very clearly still not comprehending a word Alice had just said.
なんか拍子抜けしたよ。結局、瞳子さんと青崎、どっちが勝ったのかよくつかめない。
そうね。魔術師の争いには明確な点数はつけられないから。どちらが強いかで勝負はつかないわ。瞳子さんの大目的が青崎の魔法の解明なら、魔法を使わされた時点で青子の負けよ。その後のいざこざは凱旋する勝者を夜道で襲ったようなものだし。
Alice said as she turned their sights to the forest. Even Sojiro could tell that was Alice's way of saying, "Let's go home."
そうだね。青崎もアリスもこのままじゃ風邪をひく。それと青崎が瞳子さんに呪いをかけるとき何かしてたんだけど。
Sojiro trailed off, hoping Alice would tell him what it was, but a stony and somewhat affected gaze was her response.
見たのしずきくん。
いや、青崎が出てけって。
そう。それで青子はどんな呪いをかけたの？
カエルがどうとか。
Sojo's explanation made Alice's expression darken. Aoko was still a long way from learning any sort of polymorph spells.
そう。
Her thoughts prevented her from finishing the sentence. In actuality, it was perfectly within Aoko's abilities considering where she was in time at that moment. As Aoko had said, Toko would not be able to dispel the curse for 10 years. And the Aoko of this time had not the ability to use such a curse, which meant Toko did not have anyone to rebound the curse to. No matter how much she researched dispelling powerful curses, she could not do it with the Aoko of this timeline.
青子が瞳子さんにつけたのは切り傷ぐらいだから、しずきくんが心配するようなことはないわ。青子にしては随分と生ぬるい処置だけど。
After a slightly unsettling remark, Alice quietly began to walk. Sojiro followed her, Aoko in his arms. Together, they left the clearing and moved into the forest. As they did, Sojiro abruptly froze.
しずきくん。
He looked back toward the old school building's field with a strange expression. Was it homesickness he felt? Though this was only his second time seeing it, he had a nostalgic feeling, like he would never be back. He looked like a child saying goodbye to an old toy that was to be thrown away. Seeing his expression, Alice felt a hint of sympathy and chided herself.
あの荒れ地がどうかした？
She asked him, watching the flowery garden fade into a snowy field. Sojiro shook his head.
なんとなく知っている場所に似てる気がして。おかしいな。やってきた時はそんな気はしなかったのに。
He stood staring at the tundra for what seemed like an eternity, reluctant to leave. If she left him there, he would still be gazing at it by morning, probably even longer. But there was no point in doing that. In the end, Alice was the only one who would remember the beautiful scenery he yearned for.
ここはその場所にそんなに似てる？
全然似てない。面影すら皆無だ。
なら、それは気の迷いよ。
Sojiro nodded at Alice's harsh conclusion. He smiled slightly, deciding it was pointless to want something that did not exist.
そうだね。多分幻を見ていたんだ。あれは一度幸福だった時の夢だった。
Severing the ties that bound him, Sojiro turned his back away from the snowy clearing, away from the unfamiliar yet familiar place where he had known happiness.
さあ、早く帰ろう。青崎は重いし、体も疲れてる。洋館に着いたらあったかいお茶を入れよう、アリス。
Sojiro spoke her name with a smile. Her heart skipped a beat. Since when did he start saying her name so casually like that? Somehow she managed a nod before beginning to walk again. As he moved away from her, she asked a small question to his back.
重いって、私より。
Aoko was a bit taller than Alice, so naturally she would weigh more, but Alice wanted to hear him say it anyway. Now, one to disappoint, Sojiro answered without missing a beat.
ああ、数値的に言うのなら、アリスより10キロ増しぐらい。
そう。青子が聞いてたら大変ね。
Judging by Alice's tone, she was probably going to tell Aoko later.
意地が悪いな、アリスも。それに さっきのは本人の名誉のために死者誤入してたんだぞ一応。
Look at that smirk. I thought it was just Aoko that had that. Alice has that little mischievous smile to herself too. His attempts at being kind had likely drawn him closer to his deathbed. Well, I mean, he already died once, right?
ダメかな。
He asked nervously. Alice could not help but crack a smile at his innocence. However, she was not used to smiling in front of others, so she turned away and walked into the woods. From Sojo's perspective, she was storming off in a mood.
なんだ。友達の悪口で怒るなんて。やっぱり仲はいいんじゃないか、青崎。
Sojiro rushed to catch up with Alice, gently carrying Aoko along the way. Though the prince lacked the courage to kiss the sleeping princess, he had at least saved her and was bringing her back to her castle. Despite what he had been through, he did not look like your typical hero. Still, in this story at least, he most certainly was. Cosmic Nuisance. I believe this is the final chapter, guys. Let's just save it. Six days passed, the weather in that time sunny and clear. A Tale of a Star. It first came to Sojiro's attention when he was resting with Alice after spending all day cleaning.
宗十郎、今日ぐらいはバイト休みでしょ？
Aoko asked him in her usual manner immediately upon entering the drawing room. It was already nighttime, approaching 9 o'clock. The afternoon's sunny weather had changed abruptly, and thick clouds were visible out the window. Awoken from his nonchalant daydreaming, Sojiro tilted his head to the side and replied calmly.
休みだけど、どうして？
これから実家に戻るから用意しておいて。
Sojiro's peaceful expression had grown tense the moment she appeared. Unsure of what any of this had to do with him, he stole a glance at Alice, who was seated across from him. However, she looked surprised as well, her eyes widening ever so slightly as she studied the other two.
用意って何の？
He replied timidly, struggling to hide his bitterness at Aoko for waiting until the cleaning was finished before deciding to show up.
用意は用意よ。1時間ぐらい歩く山の上だから、寒くない格好をしろって言ってるの。
Sojiro's expression only grew darker. The way she spoke made it sound like,
しずきくんを連れて行くの。
Alice spoke up before Sojiro himself could manage to say anything. Aoko brusquely asked if there was a problem.
私だってあんなとこに行きたくないわよ。けど、今日ぐらいは顔を出せってうるさいから、本当に顔だけ見せに行くの。宗十郎を連れて行くのは単に暇だからだけど。
She stood tall as if challenging her roommate to oppose her decision. Alice's face was dour as she gazed back. Sojiro's irritation was obvious as well as he glared at Aoko. Of course, their unspoken objection had no effect on Aoko in the slightest.
それじゃあ、班になったら出かけるからね。
Having said all she wanted, Aoko disappeared from the room once again. Alice and Sojiro could only sit in dumbfounded silence.
アリス、青崎の家って遠いのか？
He stared at the clock as he spoke. There were only 10 minutes to go until half past the hour.
場所的には岬市の端よ。ここから電車で4駅分下った小さな山の中にあるわ。あなたの住んでいたところに比べれば丘でしょうけど。
Her expression had not changed, but her voice made it obvious she was in a poor mood. His complete obliviousness to this fact only showed how clueless he truly was.
そっか。今から行ったら帰ってくるのは明日になるね。
帰ってこられたらの話だけど。
Each spoke to themselves as if there were no one else in the room. Those about to embark on a journey always feel a sense of dread, and he was no exception.
青崎の家ってお化けでも出るのか？
Alice did not say anything in response. All she did was raise her eyes from her teacup to stare wordlessly at him.
アリス？
His question caused her to suddenly avert her eyes. Something seemed off about her today. The minute hand on the clock was about to reach 30. Bothered as he was by Alice's odd behavior, Sojiro had no choice but to stand up from the sofa and take his leave.
それじゃあ行ってくるよ。
Sojiro hurried through the drawing room. Alice kept staring at his back until he was gone. By the time he had changed in his room and returned to the foyer, Aoko was already waiting and ready to go. Furthermore, Alice was at her side, and they were in deep conversation. She abruptly ended their chat as soon as he descended the stairs.
それじゃあ行きましょうか。アリス、留守番よろしくね。
She responded with a simple nod. There was a determination in Aoko's step as she strode to the door. Sojiro made to follow her as he donned his coat in the foyer.
ほら、ぐずぐずしない。
Her words made him pick up his pace, but he stopped suddenly, as if he had remembered something. He looked back at Alice as if to say that he had left the heater on in his room, or some other important matter.
それじゃあ行ってくる。できるだけ早めに帰ってくるから寝ないで待ってるんだぞ、アリス。
Alice blinked in shock at his unexpected request. Aoko looked on with arms folded as... Sojiro stood waiting for a response. Bewildered, Alice finally returned to the drawing room without uttering a single word. Her only response had been the very smallest of nods. They were headed for Akikoshiro train station. The night had grown late. It was nearly 11 o'clock. A train full of tourists went by in the opposite direction before the two finally arrived at the tiny station. The surrounding area was incredibly dark and quiet. In fact, it felt less like a station and more like a small boat dock. Sojiro had a hard time imagining that many people came here even during the day. It had only the absolute bare minimum necessary to greet the odd visitor. There were no convenience stores in sight, only fields and the streetlights that dotted the road. Aoko placed her ticket in front of the attendant who sat sleeping in his chair and skimmed the train schedule. The last and only train back departed just after midnight. Having confirmed her option, she headed hastily out of the station. The elderly station attendant was all alone. He had dozed off with both the heater and television still on. As he slept, his face looked completely content. The night felt vast in its darkness. The small train station had been rendered obsolete now that cars were commonplace. It was like a lone star shining in the night sky. Sojiro thanked the attendant for his service before stepping out into the darkness. The man must have looked after the station for decades at this point and would likely continue until the day he died. Outside the station, there was little in the way of human development. It could scarcely be called a village. There was not even an area out front for cars and buses to drop people off. Their eyes were met only with the panorama of flat fields interlaced with a lattice of footprints. Though surely a sea of beautiful green in summertime, in winter, it was more like a wasteland. However, electric lights that felt strangely out of place illuminated one side of the dark vista. The cold only grew harsher as the night wore on. It relentlessly snatched all sensation from the fingertips. Aoko thus kept her hands in her pockets as she strode through the paths among the fields. She could feel the ground below through her shoes. Its softness was unlike that of the city, and for her, it brought back countless memories. She had walked this path every day in middle school, after all.
あの山の真ん中あたり、家の明かりが見えるでしょ。あれがうち。
She pointed out a mountain that rose up before them with her finger. The journey looked like it would take about 40 minutes on foot. For now, they remained among the rice fields, though their journey would continue beyond them. Aoko followed the path bathed in light without looking back. The path seemed to hang before them like a pier leading out into the darkness of the ocean. The closer they got to the mountain, the darker it became. All signs of the hustle and bustle of human life were absent. The dark stillness made the moon overhead seem dazzling. Its light transformed the mountain path from blackness into mere shadow. Though dark, their surroundings were not totally indiscernible. The seemingly unending path stretched on and on. Sojiro, doing his best to match Aoko's pace, stole a momentary glance at the profile of her face. Did she not feel frightened in this quiet darkness, even with the moon to light the way? Her expression showed no outward signs of discomfort as she strode on in silence. In fact, this was how she always looked when she was trying to act tough. He had only a month's experience with her, but that much she knew. There was obviously something on her mind she couldn't ignore, no matter how small it might be.
青崎でもこういうところは怖いのかい？
She responded to his tentative question with a surprising nod.
こんな夜道を怖がらない人なんて普通いないでしょ。
See, that's honestly what I figured why she brought him along, considering they're going at this time of night and this long trek of a road or a path in the dark. But at the same time, I'm like, she's a mage. I figured she could handle anything coming her way, you know? But it is what it is. I figured she'd be scared.
我慢できるか無視できるかの2つだけよ。そのどちらもできない人は夜に出歩かないわ。
なるほど。それじゃあどうして自分を連れてきたんだ？
言わなかった？こんな何もない道を一人で歩くのは時間の無駄でしょ。退屈しのぎに話し相手が欲しかったの。
そういえばそんなことを言ってたな。
Sojiro fell into silence. He was not bothered by what she said. Rather, he was desperately searching for something to say in response. Their path through the night continued onward. Only the sound of their footsteps could be heard. Eventually, Aoko was unable to endure the silence any longer despite her best efforts.
宗十郎、退屈しのぎに何か話してよ。
参ったな。話すようなことはないんだけど。
He felt clueless and ashamed. He had been searching unsuccessfully for a topic throughout their awkward silence. Shocked though she was, Aoko let out a gentle sigh. At least for a moment, his simple earnestness was enough to make her forget all about her troubles.
バカね。嘘でも何でもいいから、とにかく話をすればいいの。別に面白い話なんて期待してないから。
Her blunt retort was not entirely honest. She would surely scold him if he dared lie to her. Sojiro said as much, reminding her of how she had claimed to hate lies. Naturally, she did not bother to respond to him.
仕方ない。話はないけど聞きたいことならあった。何でもいいならそれもいいだろ。
A slight scowl crossed her face at his suggestion, but it lasted only a moment before she returned to her previous calm state.
ま、それもいいか。どうせもうすぐ忘れるんだから。
She muttered her reply without making eye contact. Their destination in the mountains remained hidden from them, revealing not even a hint of its form. It had bothered him ever since that night. What was the truth behind it all? And how would the two sisters' drama unfold? Sojiro ventured to press Aoko for details.
それで瞳子さんは何がしたかったんだ？
あれ、言わなかった？私への復讐と根源に接触することだって。根源の渦については前に少しだけ話したでしょ？
確か魔術の源だっけ？
そう。そして最終目的でもあるわ。